just going live, Mr. Rushton. I'll tell you when it is. We're live
Sure.
now. Over to you.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland Combined Fire Authority. And just a note for Leanne McMahon, who's on, that we have a mixture today here of county members, city members, and of course Ken Ball from Rutland. When we introduce members later on, Leanne, I'll actually preface them by which local authority they represent, and also, so you understand, Leanne, I'll also preface them with their political party, because we're a fairly balanced lot here, Leanne, and we try and run this fire authority in the interests of Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. So normal stuff. Meeting is broadcast live on YouTube. It's available later for viewing after the meeting. The link is available on the CFA website. So we all know that due to the current situation, we're holding yet another remote meeting, and as far as I can see, all members are online. Can I ask that all members and officers mute their microphones until they wish or invited to speak? And members, please leave your cameras on for the duration of the meeting. If members or officers do wish to speak, please use the raise hand function in the chat facility. If it goes wrong, if you just put it in the chat facility, I'll see you. Also, we have to remember that the webcast fails, and there has been a history of them sometimes failing. We have to adjourn until it can come back on. So if I'm told it fails, we just stop and we all stay on and wait till I'm told it's back on. Regarding voting, we don't very often have many controversial votes, but if we are asked to vote, can you raise your hand, say whether you're for or against, and I'll take a roll call just so we ensure that we get it right. Normal stuff about mobile, switch them off. And we've got some visitors here today. So we've got Matthew Wallace, he's the Director of Estates and Building Services at the City Council. He will be presenting to us today, because as you no doubt noticed, Leanne, from how we run the Fire Authority, where we can share services with other authorities rather than having to buy our own in, we do that. So luckily for you today, you're going to hear from Leicester City Council. So Leanne is here. Leanne is the Service Liaison Lead for Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary and the Fire and Rescue Services. Leanne, I understand that it is usual practice for you to attend CFA meetings, and you will also attend the Corporate Governance Committee in January. I'm not on it, but members will be there. Leanne, do you want to say just a few words? Well, you've got the opportunity so people can see who you are, because obviously your camera's off. So over to you, Leanne.
Good morning, everybody. Just a quick introduction. As said, Leanne McMahon from the HMIC FRS. Some of you may have recently seen me during the Covert Inspections. Thank you very much for allowing me to attend today, and I appreciate your inviting me in. So if you've got any questions for me along the way, please do ask them. But if not, I will be staying a silent partner today and observing. Thank you. Okay,
thank you, Leanne. So I'm going to go through the formal roll call with the name of the councillor, where they represent and their political persuasion. So I'll start off in alphabetical order. So unfortunately it's you first. Councillor Barton's from the City Council and is a Labour member. Are you here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm Councillor Susan Barton, and I can confirm I'm representing Leicester City Council and I'm a Labour Party member.
Thank you very much. Next one is Councillor Bentley. He's a county member and he's Conservative. Councillor Bentley?
Yes, I can see and hear you.
Thank you very much. Ken Ball is from Rutland, and I'm not sure if you have political parties in Rutland. Ken, do you?
Yes, we do indeed, Chairman, and I'm a member of the Conservative Party.
Thank you, Ken. We've got Bill Bolton now. He's from the County Council and he's a Liberal Democrat member. Bill?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I can see and hear all of you.
Thank you very much. John Coxon is a Conservative member from the County Council. John?
Yes, I can hear you and see you, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fonseca is a Labour member and from the City Council.
Yes, I can see you and hear you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Dan Harrison is a Conservative member and is from the County Council. Dan?
Hello, good morning, Chairman. Yes, I can see and hear you.
Thank you. Councillor Kulwinder Johal is the Labour member from the City Council, and again, Councillor Johal serves as the Deputy Chairman of the Fire and Rescue Authority. Kulwinder.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and hello to everybody, and I'll confirm what Mr. Rushton's said. Thank you. And I'm also present.
We've now got Geoffrey Kaufman. He's a Conservative member. Sorry, he's not. He'd like to be. He's a Liberal Democrat member, and he's from the County Council. Geoffrey?
Yes, I can hear you and see you, Chair. Did you say you would like me to be a Conservative member?
Yes, Geoffrey. It'll help our majority. Okay, the next person is Bill Licorice, Conservative member, County Council. Bill?
Yes, good morning, everybody. Couldn't see and hear you. Thank you.
Next one's Michael Mullaney, Liberal Democrat councillor from the County Council.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I can see and hear everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. We've got Betty Newton now. Betty is a Labour member from the County Council. Betty? Have you got your microphone on, Betty?
It was a blip. Yes, I can see and hear, and thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Betty. Ted Parton, Conservative member from the County Council. Ted?
Good morning, everybody. Chair, Chief Fire Officer from Loughborough South.
Very good, thank you. Councillor Ray Bhatia, Labour member, Leicester City Council.
Good morning, Chair. Yes, I can see and hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thalduka, Labour member, Leicester City Council.
Hi, I'm Councillor Talukdar. Hi, morning. Good morning, Chair.
Morning.
Yeah.
And last but no means least, Maggie Wright, Conservative member, Leicester County Council.
Good morning, Chairman. Yes, I can see and hear you.
Thank you very much. That went well. So item 1 is apologies for absence. We haven't got any. Item 2 is declarations of members of interest of items on the agenda. I haven't got any. Does anybody else have any declarations? Okay, thank you very much. So that's no declarations. Item 3, urgent items, which the Chair's decided to take as urgent. There are none. Chairman's announcements. I've got just 1 or 2 today for you. So, Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary Fire and Rescue Services. So the next full inspection is planned to take place in the spring-summer of 2022, with the outcome being shared in winter 2022. This is the planned schedule, but is still flexible depending on the continued impacts of COVID-19. COVID inspection. In addition to the above, the Inspectorate has undertaken a COVID-specific, well, virtual one anyway, inspection of the service. Whilst the formal written feedback is awaited, the initial verbal feedback was extremely positive and recognised the hard work and positive effect the service has had during the pandemic. A prosecution. Members will have seen the briefing note sent in November regarding a successful prosecution against a previous member of the service and a landlord. This is the culmination of a lot of hard work over months and years by the fire protection team, supported very well by the County Council's legal team. Shoebox initiative. Crews at Melton, Oakham and Uppingham are spreading some Christmas cheer. They're working with partners across the area to gather and distribute items for those less fortunate and vulnerable in the community over the Christmas period with the Shoebox initiative. That concludes my announcements. So the public participation stroke CFA rules of procedure, all 9 members' questions. I've had no questions submitted. Agenda item 6. First, we must confirm the minutes of the meeting of the CFA held on the 23rd of September 2020 as a true record. These are on pages 5 to 10 of your agenda pack. And as I was chairman, I'll move the minutes held on the 23rd of September be taken, read, confirmed and signed. Kulwinder, will you second them?
I will second them, Chair.
Okay, are we all happy with the minutes? I can't see anybody dissenting. Thank you very much indeed. 7, now we consider the minutes of the Corporate Governance Committee meetings held on the 11th of March and the 16th of September 2020. These are on pages 11 to 26 of your agenda pack. Who was the chairman of the Corporate Governance Committee?
I was chairman, and I'm very happy to propose those as being correct.
Thank you. Who is your vice chairman?
Yes,
Betty.
and I second them as vice chair.
Thank you very much, Betty. So we're all happy with those? I'm happy. Thank you very much. Okay, our first item is a report on the whole time recruitment. It's urgent action taken by the Chief Fire and Rescue Officer. This is on pages 27 to 36 of your agenda. We've got Callum Faint, who you know is the Chief Fire and Rescue Officer, with us. He will present the report, and then I will move some recommendations. So we'll take you first, Callum.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. Obviously, with the ongoing impacts of COVID-19, unfortunately, I needed to take some urgent action in between meetings as per the Constitution. So I raised that with the Chairman and the Vice Chairman, who both approved the urgent action. And that was to bring forward the timetable for our whole-time recruitment campaign. Originally, it was intended to present this to you today to begin the campaign in the early part of the new year. But because of the impacts of COVID and the known restrictions at the time and the likely continuation of the restrictions into the new year, we needed to extend the timeline to safely conduct the recruitment campaign. So to kind of speak it in free language, because of the amount of interviews, physical testings, medicals that we need to do through that campaign, to do it safely with social distancing and to not breach or have certain numbers of people on stations at any one time, we've really had to push the timeline out. So the urgent action requested that we be able to start the recruitment campaign on the 25th of November, and that did go live on the 25th of November. So we are currently within the recruitment campaign. The paper continues and shows some of the work we've been doing in the forerunning of this. We continue to work really hard in the arena of positive action, getting out into the community, sharing the knowledge and understanding of what the fire and rescue services do. You'll see in paragraph 17 on page 30 of your bundle, some of those have managed to be face-to-face and real physical events. But we've also supplemented that with an awful lot of online events, which have been incredibly successful and will probably look to continue in the future as different ways of engaging with the community. The campaign went live and we're currently in the process. The approach that we are taking is very similar to previous years. It will be a blended approach of looking to bring new recruits into the service, considering migrating on-call staff across from the on-call side to the whole time, and potentially looking at bringing transferees into the service. This is it's our preferred approach because it gives us the best opportunity to diversify the workforce and also to bring a lot of skills and experience into the organisation at the same time. Members will note the specific request is for up to 25 new recruits, and that's a deliberately flexible number as workforce planning continues to be challenging for us, as there are a number of factors, as Alison has kind of already alluded to in the budget presentation earlier, around the impact of the McLeod Sargent case. May see more people leave the service, may not. We are seeing a number of other services recruit at the moment undertaking very similar approaches to ourselves, so we may lose some of our staff to transfers to other services. So it's the best way of balancing to make sure we get the right number of people in the organisation, fully representing our community, but equally maintaining that skills and experience balance as the best way possible. So the exact numbers will be decided upon the facts at the time when we come to a point, which will be early February, March time. And at that point, obviously, we'll feed back to the authority around the success of the recruitment campaign and any diversity that we've been able to attract and employ into the organisation. So I apologise for having to take urgent action, but I hope you'll see the reasoning behind it was for the right reasons, to make sure we get people into the organisation at the right time, but doing that in a safe and a responsible manner. So thank you, Chairman. Happy to take any questions if there are any.
Sure. Well, before we take questions, you did consult me and Colwynda, so I will formally move that the urgent action taken by the Chief Fire and Rescue Officer to commence whole-time recruitment on the earlier date of the 25th of November 2020 due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and related social distancing restrictions be noted. And
Mr. Rushton, it's Anna. We've got a couple of questions.
I know that.
Oh, right. Okay. All right.
I know that. We don't interrupt. And B, the suggested approach to the recruitment of firefighters set out in the firefighter recruitment plan for 2020-21 attached to the appendix to the report be endorsed. I'll move that. Can you second, Colwinder?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you. And now I'll take the questions. In order of received, I've got Ted Parton first and then Maggie. Ted, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Quick questions, please, Callum. The first one is where you quote on page 28, number 4, where it says, quoting the Fire and Rescue Act. So as we stand this year, have we had enough staff?
Yes, we have. So the diagram on page 28 of the bundle at the bottom, figure 1, shows that we monitor the continual level of the establishment. So the agreed establishment level is 348. Throughout the year, we have, for the vast majority, have been up and above it. Maybe in January or February, we were close to it and a little bit below. But obviously this year, we recruited 12 recruits into the service, new recruits around the February-March time. So we have had enough staff. Our crewing levels throughout the year have been consistently good, and our appliance availability has been exceptionally good, although I will caveat that some of that is masked a little bit by the impact of COVID, showing it as a bit more positive because of the on-call availability.
Okay, thank you. And point 10 on page 29, where it talks about across the country, most fire and rescue services are experiencing this issue. Now, would it be fair to say that other organisations don't have this issue, like, for example, the police or the ambulance service? So what do you think the reason is that the fire rescue service does have this issue? And given that, sadly, due to COVID, the unemployment figures have increased dramatically, is that reflected in the number of applications you're getting? Because I did notice that you've also retained a lot of people on file. You mentioned how you've retained, yes, here we are, point 16 on page 30.
There's a few questions there, so bear with me as I go through them. I think the fire sector is slightly different from police and ambulance, and for this we have to look back into the 1970s, where through a long period of industrial action out the other side of it, the 4-watch system was devised. So they had to, at that time, almost recruit 25% extra workforce. We're currently in the period now where that recruitment campaign back in 1977-78, those people are now coming up for retirement. So there are a number of pressures on us at the moment that are almost in a cycle. So for the next 3 to 4 years, it's likely we're going to need to continue to recruit almost yearly. Now, whilst that does put some pressure on us to recruit and bring new people into the workforce, it also offers us an excellent opportunity to improve the diversity of the workforce, probably in an accelerated timescale. So traditionally, our workforce has been quite static, and people tend to join and don't leave until they retire. So the ability to influence change in the diversity and inclusion of the workforce is slow. But actually, this next sort of 3, 4, 5 year period really gives us some opportunity to do that. I think as well, to be fair, the potential outcome of the pensions legal challenge for the Fire Brigade Union, the McLeod Sargent case, may well influence a number of people over the next 3 years to really make some decisions based on financial setup for themselves rather than their desire to continue in the employment. There's some real difficult personal choices for people coming. I don't believe the police or the ambulance service are in either of those conditions, which is why I feel we differ slightly from them. And I'm sorry, Councillor Parson, was there another question that I've forgotten?
It was regarding, it does actually tie in really, just so I understand, we've got this figure of people starting in May. Is that people that are fully trained by May or commence their training by May? Because the reason I asked that, the chair asked me to attend a passing out parade on his behalf, representing the authority in 2019, and I remember hearing the figure that a huge amount had applied, but there was only about 7 passed. So if these people start training in May, how many do you think will actually make it through to a fire station?
So, in fact, I've just remembered another question you mentioned about application numbers, so I'll cover that now. The application closed with 382 applications received, and that's from all the mechanisms. So that's the new recruits, the transferees from other services, and the potential migrations from the on-call part of the service to the whole time. That is a relatively healthy number, to be fair, because we are only looking at taking a maximum of 25. So whilst in previous years we may have had significantly higher numbers, ultimately the number of people we employ still comes down to a relatively low number. With regards to if they're starting in May on fire engines, that really depends on the selection process. If we have a number of people transferring in from other fire and rescue services who are already trained and competent, they will come into service, probably do a week or two's familiarisation and go on the fire engine at that time. If they are new people joining the service from the community, no, they will start training at that time and will probably reach a fire engine June, July time in 2021, because obviously they've got an awful lot of skills and training to do. The actual numbers of people that we employ and complete courses is incredibly high. So we don't tend to see people on whole-time campaigns who join and then don't make it through training. On-call is slightly different because the pressures are different, but actually those that we send on training, we tend to expect them to complete the training and come back and be very, very competent firefighters for years and decades into the future.
Okay, thank you, Ted. Thank you, Callum. Next one in line, it's you, Maggie.
Thank you. Good morning, Callum. It's just around the finances, the extra finances. You alluded to that it has cost extra finances, and as establishment is one of our biggest costs. It's just a ballpark figure of what it actually has come out at. And you've said that it will come out of the COVID grant, but is that the existing COVID grant or is that one that we possibly will get in the future?
So the costs of recruiting, obviously there's an awful lot of human resources hours for the service to put the process together, assess and deliver the relative assessments that are needed, physical and written. The actual cost of the recruit course, we've managed to reduce that by a significant sum by using it through the apprenticeship scheme. So whereas before the cost of training a whole-time firefighter would have been in the region of £10,000 per recruit to the authority, that through the apprenticeships now is now reduced down to in the region of £3,600 per recruit. So a relatively, well, a pretty significant saving, if I'm honest, if we're talking about potentially up to 25 recruits for the service. The cost of recruitment isn't being funded through COVID, but the cost of any additional hours that we're putting in is being attributed to COVID because that's what we're having to do. That's through sorry, I haven't explained that clearly. The recruitment is a cost we would normally have to fund ourselves, which is what we would do. Any additional burdens that are placed on the recruitment campaign because of COVID is where we're drawing down from the existing COVID budget. So the grant we got was a relatively healthy grant in the region of £950,000. We've spent to date between £300,000 and £350,000 of that. So that does leave a significant chunk of COVID funding available to us, which is why we're using it for any activity that has been affected by COVID. Hopefully that answers your question, Councillor Wright.
Yep, brilliant, thank you.
Thank you very much, Maggie. Sue, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. My question was really to do with promoting the recruitment that we have of the whole-time firefighters, and to say it's very positive that we're in a position to be able to do this. And how are we making sure that the information about potential employment is reaching the communities that all the communities that we represent? I know I've been sharing it within particular social media networks, so it perhaps has a higher reach. Are there other things that we could be doing?
I think the honest answer to that, Councillor Barton, is there's always ways that we can improve, and we should always be looking to seek those ways to improve. The corporate communication team and the positive action team are working incredibly hard over the last 4 months, actually promoting it in the right way. Like you, we've done some very targeted social media campaigns, and we've invested not a significant amount of money, probably between £200 and £300, to promote those adverts to targeted groups and underrepresented groups. I do have some facts and figures about outreach. I'll share them outside of the meeting because I don't have them to hand, but they're actually incredibly impressive of how far the message has gone. I think whilst I don't have a full report, and I'd look to bring that back in February, we've had some real success in the diversity of applicants in some areas, but unfortunately not in others. So the black and minority ethnic makeup has significantly improved, where over 20% of the applicants are from a BAME background. Unfortunately, our gender diversity, whilst we reached a significant number of females, that didn't translate into applications, and that sets at a rather disappointing 12% of applicants are females. So some real success, but not as much as I think any of us would like, but we need to continue to look to improve and fine tune that.
Yeah,
thank you.
I mean, Sue, as you, I mean, you weren't originally on the Fire Authority when myself and Sir Peter first came on, but Callum and the whole of the CFA are 100% aware of our ambition to be diverse, not only ethnically, but also to encourage females. And Colwynda is certainly a good supporter of that as well. So we're doing our best, but as you pointed out, Callum, it's sometimes a bit difficult. Anyway, I've got Betty now, who's actually our equalities champion. Betty, microphone on, Betty.
I just wanted to come in there to say that we've done an awful lot of work. We've had, there's a whole list of work that we've done, physical events where we had 15 female candidates. We've had events for underrepresented groups. We had physical events where we had 12 BAME candidates with 4 physical events, which some of those had to be cancelled because of COVID. So there is an awful lot of work going on, and we've got a recruitment campaign going on, which we've recommended. The setup group that I'm on, which is the Strategic Equalities Diversity Group, has recommended some further improvements to the recruitment process that may also at some point help us get the best possible candidates for the job. So we're firmly committed, as you know, Sue, to ensuring that we have a more diverse workforce, and but there are restrictions as well, because they have to live within Leicestershire, have to have some requirements have been removed, like having a driving licence, etc. But we're trying our very best to really ensure that we have a more diverse workforce that's reflective of what we have in the city and the county. But a lot of work's been going on in the background, and we even won an award for our positive action work. That's forgotten about, that we did win an award for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Betty. Very positive. Colwynda, you're actually down on my list next, but I think I'll take you last, Colwynda, so it gives you the opportunity to summarise as Vice Chairman anything you want to do. So Colwynda, I'll bump you down one. I'll take Dan Harrison next, then Colwynda will finish. Dan.
Right, thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Callum. Could I direct you to page 31, paragraph 20? You talk about adjustments are in place to accommodate individual circumstances. Again, this has been changed to make further improvements in the diversity. And I'm just interested to know, is there any way we could sustain a little form of educational support for people to come in and, you know, they could really be physically good and intelligent, but might not have some little bit academic not there, but potentially could be long-term people who would be very successful for us. Could you just go through that a little bit for me, Callum?
Yes, certainly. There is no national requirement for qualifications to join the fire and rescue service. So every fire and rescue service will set their own requirements or standards. A number across the country have 5 GCSEs, C or above, requiring maths and English. And the majority were very similar to us last year, that you need to have maths and English GCSEs or equivalent. And I take your point, that's a very academic qualification that wouldn't appeal to every kind of learning method or people's attributes. So this year, through quite a lot of investigatory work, we've almost gone full circle back a number of years to do a test that is specific to the skills required of a firefighter. So in a maths GCSE, I might learn trigonometry, and I have to say, in 25 years of being in the fire service, I haven't used trigonometry to any effect. But what I have done is used quite a lot of maths in other ways for making sure we've got the right pumping pressures, etc. So the tests that we've employed now actually relate to the job that people are going to do, rather than just the academic qualification, which, from the research that's been conducted by Georgina Coop from Learning and Development, is more likely to appeal to a wider demographic, both in terms of numbers, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation. It's likely to appeal to much more people, a much wider brand. Now, that test is actually conducted via a computer, and we accept that not everyone is able to use a computer at the correct or the right level needed for the test. So there are reasonable adjustments in place. So anyone who has a disability or an inability to use a computer have access to, there is an option for them to either come into the service and use our computer, or for us to provide a reader for them, etc. So we've covered all the right and proper things to do for those with learning disabilities, but we're really focusing the test now down to the skills and attributes you need to be a firefighter, not what grade of qualification you happen to get at school or not, dependent on so many circumstances. So it's probably a bit more work for us, if I'm honest, but it feels like it's the right work for us to do to get the right people into the organisation to reflect our community. So hopefully that answers your question, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you very much indeed, Callum. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. And then finally on this agenda item, Vice Chairman Cowinder.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Callum. It's reassuring, I would say, that, you know, what I will say is that the recruitment will happen, but the way it's been programmed, it's really encouraging that we're spending a lot of time and resource, not just acting through and trying to address the issue. However, that we've taken almost best part of a half an hour to look at the diversity part of the recruitment. And I think that's really appreciated by myself anyway, and I'll take that back to the communities, BAME communities. And what I can say is that, you know, this is a beast that we're trying to move. Diversity, you know, it is a beast, because we're looking at systems, we're looking at how people view these organisations. And if we compare ourselves to an organisation recently hit the news for the wrong reasons, where the chairman of the National FA had to resign, you know, that's the lack of education. What we've discussed here, I'm absolutely reassured that we're trying to do everything we can. What I will suggest is that I'm not too fussed about the numbers at the moment. It's the efforts that we make. Then, you know, in a year's time, what we can do is have a look at what we've done in the past 2 years. How were they effective? If they weren't, how can we tweak it? Make sure that, you know, the opportunities within the fire service are accessible and communicated to all. Maybe, you know, in 2 years' time, we'll have a different approach. But I just want to say that I appreciate it. I'm sure the BAME communities appreciate it. And going forward, I'm sure that we will be more reflective of the demographics of the city and the county. So thank you to everybody involved.
And thanks for that very positive summary, Cowinder. I mean, we all do things with the right intentions. It's just sometimes hard to get there. But thanks for that summary. So the motion was moved by myself and seconded by Cowinder. Can we have a show of hands in favour? Thank you very much. That is unanimous. Can I just ask Ted, Susan and Dan to put your little hands down? So when we move on to the next agenda item, I know who fresh speakers are. It's all right. So agenda item 9 is the amendment to the Statement of Accounts 1920. Again, this is urgent action taken by the Chief Fire and Rescue Officer and the Treasurer.
Yes.
Pages 37 to 42 of your agenda. Alison Greenhill, our Treasurer, and Alison works for the City Council, so you understand that. I will present this report. So again, Alison, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Again, similar to the last item, this is urgent action between meetings, and it is an amendment I was required to make on the recommendation of our auditors to the Statement of Accounts. It's nothing to do with us directly. It relates to the still not finalised audit of the Local Government Pension Scheme Pension Fund administered by the County Council. And largely this is because auditors are nervous around the performance of pension funds in their investment in property assets. So there's some ongoing work that nearly all pension funds are being required to do. So we were, as a member of the local government pension scheme, were required to include a disclosure note just around the uncertainty around the audit of the pension scheme. So it doesn't affect our accounts as such, it doesn't affect our finances or anything that I've briefed you on earlier. It is an accounting entry. And what I've asked in that recommendation as well is, of course, when the audit is finalised and if I'm required to put another sentence in the accounts, that I have authority to do that. If there was anything that was materially affecting our financial position, of course, I would bring that to a full CFA. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alison. I'll formally move some recommendations, get it seconded, then we'll see if we've got any questions. So I move that A, the urgent action taken by the Chief Fire and Rescue Officer and the Treasurer to make a reminder amendment to the Authority's Statement of Accounts 1920 be noted, and B, the Treasurer be authorised to approve any further minor amendments to the annual accounts and annual governance statement, subject to a report to the CFA at its next meeting. I'll move those. Can you second, Co-Winder?
I'll second them, Chair.
Thank you very much. So in terms of order of hands up, we've got you first, Bill. Microphone on, Bill.
Have you any idea when the pension scheme will be actually set up? When the auditors will be happy with the pension scheme and the audit of the assets? Have we got any time scale for that?
As of today, the audit is still not complete, and this is auditors have, I'll call it, you can't not know what you know. So whilst the impact of the pandemic for the period of the accounts, i.e. at the end of 31st of March, probably at that point didn't impact on property values. As the summer progressed, of course, you can't ignore the fact that there is an impact. So as of today, the audit isn't complete. It is not my audit, of course, it's the County Council's audit. But like I say, all pension schemes are facing the same thing, and I imagine it will be imminent.
Can you confirm that, Chair? Can you confirm?
Thank you. What did you say, Bill?
Can you?
You've disappeared, Bill.
Can you confirm it is imminent, the results of the audit, or don't you know?
I don't know. I'll have to take the advice of Alison, our Treasurer. Alison?
Yeah, I'm not aware, Chair, that there are any issues that are unique to Leicestershire. It is purely a view of the impact of COVID on property investments, and therefore, as you know, pension costs are a part of the accounts that are in and out, as in they don't impact on our council tax setting, our precept setting. So if the auditors want the values to be increased or decreased, it is an in and out figure of our accounts. But no, I'm not close enough, Chair, to know how close the audit opinion is, but equally I'm not aware that there are significant issues.
Does that do you, Bill? Is that enough for you, Bill?
Thank you, Chair. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. If you want anything else, you can, you're a county council, you can ask yourself later on, can't you, Bill? Okay, so moved by me, seconded by Co-Winder. Can we have a show of hands? Thank you very much. That's good. So item 10, we have a report on COVID-19 and the Leicester Fire and Rescue Service. This is on pages 43 to 114 of your agenda pack, and the Chief's going to introduce it. So back to you, Callum.
Thank you, Chair. Relatively brief introduction for me. It's a short paper with a very long appendix describing what we've done throughout the COVID pandemic. Originally, we'd pulled this document together to support the COVID inspection from the HMI CRFS. However, as it came together, it's an incredibly powerful document, and I wanted to highlight it to the members, just the amount of work that the service has done in addition to what we normally do as a fire and rescue service through the pandemic. And it was so powerful to me. I just wanted to bring it to members' attention so that you could have sight of it. I don't, other than saying the service has responded phenomenally well, and I'm incredibly proud of how we've dealt with it, I just thought it was useful for members to have the information. So that's it, Chair. Thank you. If there are any questions, happy to take them.
Thank you very much. I'll formally move that the report and the appendix detailing the high level of work undertaken in the pandemic above above and beyond the normal requirements of the Fire and Rescue Service be noted, and our thanks to all concerned be recorded in the minutes. So that's a slight addition to what's there, but I think it's opportune to recognise the work that, including you, Callum, really, so don't think we're not thanking you. So it's thanks to all concerned be minuted. I'll formally move it. Can you second, Cowinder?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you. Very good. I'll take people in order. So I've got them down here. So I've got Councillor. I'm sorry if I get your name wrong. I know it's Councillor Thalduka.
It's Councillor Talukdar. Thank you, Chair. Yeah,
Thank you.
I was going to say the same thing because the amount of work is done in COVID-19 is really, we are proud of the organization, and thanks to all fire officers and chief here. Thanks again. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I struggle with your name. I don't struggle with yours, Sue. So you're next.
Yeah. Yes, I really want to thank everybody for the extra effort that they've put in. It really is inspiring to see that the lengths that people have gone to support our communities. The question that I have is, the report says that there are no financial implications and that a grant has been received from the government. I'm interested to know how much was the grant and has it covered all the additional costs that we've met, and has it actually been paid yet?
Okay, Callum. Is that for you?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can answer it. Alison might have the more specifics. The grant came in 2 waves for us and totalled in the region of £950,000. To date, all costs associated with COVID that we've put forward and monitored from day one really has totalled between 300 and 350,000. So there is a reasonable amount of that money still left, but obviously the effect of COVID is still going to be ongoing for a number of months. Through discussions with the Treasurer and her team, we're already looking at if there is a shortfall in the council tax precept because of COVID, then there is the potential to use that grant further to offset some of those issues. So again, my thanks to Alison and her team for really future planning to make that money work for us as best as possible and lessen the pain on the community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That's a relief to hear about it, and very positive information. And let's hope things get back to a more normal outlook soon, so that we're not having to spend even more.
Very good. So Ted, you're on.
Right. In terms of the home visits, that some of them had to be done virtually in fire safety checks. Obviously, I represent the Fire Authority on the Safer Leicestershire Communities Board, and there was a paper, an appendix that was given to that from the Fire Authority, and I thought it would be worth commending it to people. For example, and what I will do is I'll find that and give it to Anna Paul so she can send to all the members of the Fire Authority, because, for example, it talks about April 20, which of course was during the major lockdown. The figures make for extraordinary reading. For example, professional staff, 89% strongly agree, disagree 0. Trustworthy staff strongly agree. They're all zeros for the negative. So that, you know, this form here is quite astonishing. And this was presented to the Safer Leicestershire Communities Board, and a number of people who felt safer, 100%. So this is good evidence to back up the work that's actually in this paper. So as I say, I'll give this to Anna Paul so you can all have a look.
Very good, Ted. Thanks for that. Okay, Betty.
Sorry, mine is just I would like to really commend the service for all the work that it's been doing in terms of one of the things, for example, is delivering face masks to vulnerable people. Well, vulnerable people quite often can be panicky and uncertain about what's happening to them. So an awful lot of sensitivity has to go in with actually dealing with that and helping them. So it's really a commendation to say, I just say well done for that type of work. It's not an easy thing to do.
Yep, very good, Betty. I mean, that's one of the good things about the fire service and the officers that work for us is they are, as Ted said, 100% trusted and respected.
Yeah.
Colwynda, I see your hand's just gone up.
Yeah, I'd just like to say a big thank you and well done to the service. We hear a lot on TV about the NHS and they all got claps, etc. But what society sometimes forget that there's other organisations, frontline organisations, and I think where credit's due, credit's due. There's a lot of industries that could have worked remotely, took the work home and done it from there. However, you guys provided a frontline service. You're out there. You risked your lives. You risked your health. And I think it needs to go on record to say that well done from everybody, from the city, especially from our wards, and from society as a whole.
Yep. Well, you've got that message, Colwynda. We have recorded the extra sentence in the recommendation. So if you can pass it down to everybody it works for you. So it was moved by me, seconded by Colwynda. All in favour? Thank you very much. Right, let's go over, oh God, Day Crewing Plus again. So this report is on Day Crewing Plus. It's 115 to 118, your agenda pack, and it's over to you, Callum.
Thank you, Chairman. Relatively brief update on the progress. Members have previously asked for updates around the Day Crew Plus joint working group as and when it forms and comes back. Unfortunately, as the paper kind of highlights, it had to be delayed a little bit due to the impacts of COVID directly on me because I contracted it for a period of time, so I had to self-isolate. But I'm really pleased to say the first meeting's taken place between the Fire Brigade Union, myself and officers, where the heads of terms of reference for the group has been agreed. The membership of the group has been agreed. It's a really mature and pragmatic approach that's been taken by everyone. So it will be a joint working group formed of officers of the service, for which Assistant Chief Officer Weston is going to lead on the service's behalf. It will be formed by the Fire Brigade Union and the Fire Officers Association, so that we encompass all of the staff's views as best as possible to come up with a really collegiate way forward to see us move away from Day Crew Plus. The first formal meeting for that will start on the 22nd of January, and they will meet fortnightly as it starts off, as there is a lot of ground to cover and a lot of things to investigate and look into. And we'll continue to provide updates for you at the next authorities. So sorry, it's a brief update. I'd hope to be a little bit further forward, but due to personal circumstances for me, that had to be delayed a little bit. Thank you, Chair.
Well, it's good news that we're all working together to deal with what is a thorny issue. So I'll formally move the recommendations and I'll take questions. So I move that the update provided on the progress made to identify an alternative duty system following decision taken at our meeting on the 29th of July 2020 to move away from a day crewing plus in preparedness for the next IRMP 2024, and Callum's comments be noted. Can you second that, Colwynda?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you very much, Colwynda. Right, let's take them in order. So I've got young Ted.
Oh, thank you. Callum, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I'm looking at page 116 on point 7, where it says that there was a reason for postponement of a joint working group. But then when you move down to point 12 and 13, it says officers are now beginning work to establish the joint working group. So it almost seems as if a working group was formed, but then you go to 12 and it hasn't been formed. Is this a different working group? That's the first question. And the second question is that point 11, to date, no reply has been received from the HSE. Is that normal to receive no response, or do you think there's a reason they're holding back from responding to us?
Yeah, so your first point, sorry, Chair, is that okay to respond?
Go ahead, Callum.
Yeah, thank you. The first point, sorry, is probably poor language from me. The first meeting was to agree the terms of reference for the group to then formally commission the group to start. That's the one that had to be postponed. So I apologise. That's poor language on my behalf. So that meeting has now taken place. The terms of reference are now agreed and ready to go. And the first formal meeting of that actual physical group will take place on the 22nd of January. So I do apologise. That's my poor language. And the second point was I don't necessarily expect a response from the HSE. I think where I'm relatively comfortable is with the paragraph above that, number 7, was around the joint statement between the Fire Brigade Union and the service. That should, in effect, establish a collective agreement for the period stated, which removes the risk of enforcement action from the HSE. So I can offer you some relative assurance that I think we're in the right place. I wouldn't necessarily expect a response back from the HSE. I know from my conversations with them around other matters, they're incredibly busy with COVID at the moment. And in fact, we've actually had 2 visits from them into service, which have gone exceptionally well, all around COVID. So no, I wouldn't necessarily expect a response back in writing, but I am content with where we are to protect the authority.
Yeah, and finally, in terms of point 12, where it says established a joint working group with representative bodies, who are the representative bodies, please?
So yeah, that's both. We have, relatively speaking, we have 3 or 4 representative bodies across the sector. So we have Unison, who represent the professional support staff or Green Book staff. They're not involved in this because they don't have any of their workforce that work these systems. The significant representative body is the Fire Brigade Union. However, there are other representative bodies, which is the Fire Officers Association and the Fire and Rescue Services Association. So for this joint working group, because it represents whole-time staff, the Fire Brigade Union and the Fire Officers Association are the ones that are represented, and they will both be sitting on this joint working group, which doesn't sound a lot, but actually is significant progress with our industrial relations and the maturity of those relationships, that they're both happy to sit around that table and work together to a solution. So again, it is positive news. I say that without the first meeting starting and any difficulties arising, but actually it's a really mature approach, and I thank both the representative bodies for that approach, if I'm honest.
Mr. Rushton, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. I did have another hand up. It was Maggie's, but she seems to have lowered it. Are you okay, Maggie?
Yeah, it's been answered regarding the Health and Safety Executive. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Maggie. So the recommendation was moved by myself, seconded by Colwinder. All in favour? Thank you very much. Thanks, Callum. So agenda item 12 is the Training Facility Service Leadership and Development Centre project update. This is on 119 to 126 of your agenda pack. We've got Matthew Wallace, who is the Director of Estates and Building Services at the City Council. He will present the report, and then Callum, you might want to say something. So do you want to do you first, Callum, or go straight to Matt?
If we could go straight to Matt, Chair, I think, and then I'll follow on at the end if necessary.
Great, over to you then, Matthew.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. Hopefully everybody's seen the papers, as Chair said, between 119 and 126 today. I've done a short presentation. I'll summarise the position of the paper. I'm just going to share my screen now. So hopefully if somebody can just confirm that they can see the presentation, that would be great. Thank you.
We've got it.
Yeah, we can see it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, so it's just an update around the training facility. I'll just quickly run through what we'll be talking about. So the updates are on the progress of the design and the build of the service's new training facility, and that's in line with the emerging and changing landscape that we're currently experiencing at the moment. So in terms of the objectives of this briefing, at the end of it, the CFA will be updated on the background, the current situation, the movement that we've had in the period since the last CFA update, the main project risks, and the main project opportunities, and then just summarising the recommendations, which will couple into the paper that's in the agenda pack as well. Okay, in terms of the background, you'll see a plan on the screen there. Apologies, you can't see the names of the different buildings, etc. But just to remind people, this is the nominal site layout for Desford, the Desford proposals, which is the dirty element of the training facility. So in January 2020, at the CFA, we agreed to progress the concept designs for the consolidated site on one of the two sites, Loughborough and Desford. And then in September 2020, we agreed a split site as a preferred move going forward, one site being the clean site for training and one site being the dirty site for training. And then, as you can see there, the site plan above, it shows the proposed dirty side of the facilities over at Desford, and that's our current thinking there. The next plan that you can see, hopefully, is of Loughborough, which is the proposed laydown for Loughborough, and that's the clean side of the site. And this is as of October 2020. The proposals were sitting there at the bottom of that site. You can see the old fire station, and the greyed out area is the dilapidated FBU building. And then at the top of the site, you can see the existing training building there as well. So the training provisions obviously removed the actual FBU element. So there's potential to also extend a second story and use over provision space within the existing fire station that I mentioned at the bottom there as well. So that's to optimise the usage of the Loughborough for clean training facilities. In terms of the current situation and the change where we're currently moving through, obviously the chair and Callum have alluded to the facts of sort of COVID and post-COVID. There's a lot of uncertainty at the moment. I mean, Alison's comments around budget, etc., pay tribute to the challenges, sort of challenging times that we're facing. But it needs to be recognised that it provides less opportunities to move from the existing sites. But it also makes a move towards making best use of the existing infrastructure as well, and getting us an opportunity to sort of re-look at the existing infrastructure and sort of minimal amount of new works that's required. Also, it started the thinking around developing a fire behavioural unit as a standalone site, so just as its own standalone area. And we need to recognise as well at this stage our plans were hopefully to have moved things along with the Caterpillar site at Desford. Unfortunately, due to the COVID, there's been the negotiations over at Desford are understandably taking a lot longer than we first envisaged due to the global pandemic. So why the change? Well, I mean, the situation has dictated that the scale of the existing assets is unlikely to be a source of sort of revenue as previously anticipated. Again, if you think about shared services and the trading ability for spare space, the demand has dropped down significantly in the private sector and the public sector shared space going forward. There's a continued risk over at Desford. And that risk means sort of marketplace sites may have to also be considered in the future. So that's going out and looking again at private sector land to maybe site the FBU on. There's a reduction in demand on the new site, which means a smaller footprint. And COVID's dictated new methods of delivering training means and a revised infrastructure. An example that Mick gave me a week or so ago was around the virtual reality, the headsets, which are taking more and more of a prominent role in sort of live training scenarios, etc. So that's got to be considered as well in the sort of new world where we're moving into. So in terms of movement in period, it's fair to say the modern methods of construction are still being considered. So the modular designs of the functions that we've got will allow for adaptation to any site. So we can do lifts and shifts on the design that's being developed at the moment. We do need to recognise that Caterpillar are still engaging with us. And the fact is the land sale is not off the table. But we have to also acknowledge that the sort of project team have accepted the possibility that we might need to start thinking about an alternative solution should that not come to fruition. And the design of the fire behavioural unit is based on the dirty site and ongoing minimised land requirement there. So I think it's fair to say we've sort of hit a tactical pause at the moment. So as a project team, we're taking that tactical pause and we're going to review that while assets are being assessed for suitability, including works required to make it fit for purpose. I'll just call out the sort of three sort of main key sort of project risks we see at the moment. And as mentioned before, the Desford heads of terms to be agreed, the H block at Desford to be moved early 2021. I do know the fire service team are busy trying to agree an extension to that, but there's nothing in place, so that's a key focus for us in the first quarter of 21. And also the sort of risks around planning conditions of overdevelopment over at the Loughborough site, which obviously is in close proximity to residential assets, as we know. But equal to the sort of main project risks, we've obviously got main project opportunities as well. And sort of COVID's dictated training requirements require a smaller footprint. Smaller footprint gives us more sites to consider, and it also cuts down the cost to acquire as well. The market value of land requirement is reduced. Again, another opportunity for us to get more bang for a buck. And we can incorporate the upgrade of existing training estate into the current locations, into the project. As Alison touched on in the budget, there's estate strategy funding set aside, and obviously if we can coordinate the training facilities with some of the operational fire stations expenditure and include maintenance in there, it goes to serve as better value for money for us across the piece. In terms of the bit of an update that I've just ran through there, the recommendations are as per the report, which is for the CFA to acknowledge the risk around the acquisition of Desford, that being a continued risk. The need to consider a backup plan, an alternative for that dirty site if Desford doesn't come to fruition. And then for us to give a further update to the CFA in February 2021, just to update on progress. You can see the two recommendations on there: an agreement to pause momentum to assess the suitability of the current estate, given the change in property market. So a bit of a pause really as we sort of coming through this sort of COVID pandemic period. And then just this agreement to consider reducing the footprint of the previous dirty training site to accommodate the fire behavioural unit and support functions only. That is the update. I will stop sharing my screen. Happy to take questions, Chair.
Sure. So we better move something. So my recommendations need another one adding to it. So at 1, we agree a pause. At 2, we note the risk around the acquisition of land owned by Caterpillar at Desford. Next, the need to consider alternative site for dirty training. We note that. And then I think the key one is that you do bring a progress report again back to the CFA meeting on the 10th of February 2021. So I think the only thing I've added, Kilwinder, from what was on type of recommendations is that we agree the pause. So are you happy with those, Kilwinder?
Yes, I'm happy and I'll second that, yeah.
Thank you very much. Right, if I take people in order of hands up, Ted, you're number 1.
What you've just recommended, Chair, is actually quite pertinent, because talking about this Desford, to clarify then, if we're recommending a pause, does a pause mean that we can't engage in any negotiations with Caterpillar, or does a pause, is that not included in a pause? Because like on page 121.16, it says the project team will continue to attempt to secure a favourable land deal at Desford. Yeah. Then you move down to 19, and it says it represents an opportunity to secure provisions to much reduced rate.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I understand the confusion there, Ted.
What is the issue with Caterpillar? And the other thing is, And
Shall we let him answer that? Let him answer that first, Ted, because that is a bit of a. If when we pause, we don't want to pause the negotiations, do we?
Absolutely not, Chair. Yeah, thanks for clarity. Thanks, Councillor Palm, for that, because it's not a pause in the negotiation. We still want to progress negotiations because it's still a great opportunity for us to go ahead with that. And obviously, negotiations are subject to an agreement that will go back through a CFA decision-making process anyway before we move forward. So I think at this stage, we just want to keep the pot boiling, so to speak, on the negotiations whilst we're doing this concurrent review of the estate.
Good. So do the recommendations need a slight amendment, or are you happy with what we're moving?
I'm happy with it, but I'm quite happy to adjust it slightly, just to sort of make that clear to everybody, if everybody's happy with that.
Let me ask Colwinder, are you happy with what Matthew's just said, that we need to recognise that he can still carry on negotiating with Caterpillar?
Yeah, I'm happy with that, and that was also my understanding of it.
Good. Okay, Ted, back to you.
Yeah, because it's going to seem as if, and in fact, I don't have expertise in purchasing property and land, so it is going to seem quite naive. But from a novice point of view, I'm struggling to understand the reason that it's taken so long to come to any sort of agreement with Caterpillar. And again, from a novice point of view, it would seem as if they're not minded to come to an agreement with us, or that the figures are a large variance between each party.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to go into the detail of the actual negotiations.
Yeah, no, that's understood in a public meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. But all I would say is the negotiations are amicable. The delays are more a case of a global organisation like Caterpillar having to consider the sort of wider global context of the pandemic, and so their focus has not really been on the site. But don't get me wrong, we're still trying to push it from our side of things as well.
Okie dokie. Well, we've got some recommendations which have been moved by me and seconded by Colwinder, which I think we all understand. So are we all happy? Thank you very much. Oh, now, good. Now we have the report on service identity. This is on 127 to 132 of your agenda pack. And over to you, Callum.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm really pleased to be presenting this report back to you quite as early as I am, if I'm honest. If members will recall, in the last meeting, I said it would probably take between 12 and 18 months to be able to do the work in the right way to come back to you. It would appear we've had a number of significant breakthroughs between this meeting and the last, to the point where we're now actually able to present the final badge or service identity forward. That's figure 1 on page 130 of your bundle. We, through exploration work and through quite a lot of conversations with the Heraldry Commission, with the City Council, with the County Council and the Constabulary, we've been able to obtain all necessary permissions within the timescale. So figure 1 would be the new service identity that we're proposing, that represents Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland equally, and it maintains some of the historic value that the badge is held in, with the service being on the 8-pointed star and adorned with the 2 animals and the motive. So because of the timetable and the really quick progress we've made, we were actually able to stop any expense being incurred by reinstating of the old badge in the interim period. So no money's been spent to date. And subject to authorities' approval today, figure 1 would become our permanent badge or service identity, and we would look to get that onto new issues of shirts relatively quickly, although the delivery time of them is between 4 and 6 months, and they would re-emerge back onto fire engines and our vehicles, and then it would become our service identity as and when stuff needed renewing moving forward. So really good piece of work that actually means an awful lot to the staff in the organisation, and I'm just really happy to be able to bring it to you a lot quicker than I envisaged. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, very, very good work. I like it. I know the staff like it. I think it's an excellent piece of work you've done there, Callum. So I'll just formally move that the new service identity incorporates Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland, as shown in figure 1 of the report, be approved, and B, that the Chief Fire and Rescue Officer be authorised to introduce the service badge across the service with immediate effect. If I move that, are you happy, Colwinder?
I'm happy, and I'll second that.
Thank you very much. I'll take people in order. So, and luckily for you, Ted, you've not made it first this time. I've got Betty. You're on mute, Betty.
There we go. Just wanted to say that I'm delighted that you've chosen figure 1, because that was my favourite out of the two. I thought it was a less busy badge in a way, and I quite liked is it 2 white roses in the middle? I quite liked that one. So yes, a good choice.
Very good. I agree with you, Betty. Right, Ted, hopefully you're going to agree.
Always agree, Chair. Can I just say for clarification, the reason I ask so many questions is because I don't want to be calling officers up during the week and bothering them, asking them questions when they're really busy. It's clarification. When it says the new badge is going on new uniform, so is it a case of where staff have got their current uniform but it hasn't worn out and they don't need to order any more new uniform? It won't just suddenly be all members of staff get a complete set of uniform with the new badge, so it will be a gradual rollout. And what's the reason it takes 4 to 6 months to get something in with this new badge on?
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, so there's a mixed answer to this because the level of pride in the service is incredibly high, and people have been asking this for a long period of time. We would be issuing people the whole service with new shirts that have the badge on. That comes in at the cost of within the region of sort of £20,000. Any other parts of uniform, such as jackets, jumpers, etc., they would only be issued on an as and needs basis. So for a period of time, there will be the new figure 1 badge emerging, and the old more corporate boxed red, white and black logo for a period of time. But I think that reduces the cost and is the pragmatic way forward, so that we don't have to reissue uniform completely across the service, which seems particularly frivolous in this day and age where money's not so tight, or sorry, where money is quite so tight. And sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Why does it take so long?
We're at the behest of suppliers, unfortunately. So we're in a contract. We've already kind of got the strike plate drawn up, so we're able to embroider them. But because of the number of shirts we're ordering, it's likely to take a period of time and a delivery period of time. The supplier has told me that could be between 3 and 4 months. I'm edging my bets with the impact of COVID that's more likely to between 4 to 6 months. And again, I hope I'm proved wrong and deliver it a lot quicker. But I think realistically, with the issues that people are facing, it's just what the supplier can deliver it to us in time. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. It would be nice if we could get it earlier, Callum, because I know the whole service is, I don't use the word excited lightly, but they're very, very keen and happy to get it on their close as soon as we can. So if we can speed it up, do your best. So
I'm leveraging everything I can.
Very good. We'll be able to see it on your shirt, will we, Chief?
In 4 to 6 months, I hope so, yes.
Okay. Okay, so it was moved by me and seconded by Colwinder. Show of hands, please. Thank you very much. Okay, 14, Equalities Annual Progress Report 1920. This is on pages 133 to 160 of your pack, and it's over to you again, Colwinder. Oh, sorry, Callum.
Thank you, Chair. The report in front of you, or the appendix in front of you, is a legal requirement for every public sector body to review its annual plan and publish it on an annual basis. So this fulfills that function that's required. it will probably follow on from some of the conversations we had earlier around the recruitment, that we are making progress. The appendix shows we are making progress, but it is slower than any of us would like. We're working very hard to improve the diversity, equality and inclusion in the workforce. So much so that whilst it isn't in the paper, officers and I have now agreed we're actually going to further resource the equality, diversity and inclusion team by looking to temporarily move a watch manager over for a year or up to a year or two to really give some traction, not only for recruitment, but to really get Edie and I back into the daily conversation within the workforce. And I think it's an area we will do better in. It's not an easy area to address, but we will do better. But the appendix is quite a long appendix, and there's an awful lot of information in there. I think I've highlighted the pertinent information in paragraph. Oh, my computer's just gone blank. I've highlighted the information, the pertinent information in the paper, but I'm happy to take any questions if there are any, Chair.
Good. Well, Betty's our diversity champion, so I'm not going to move this. I'm going to call Betty, ask her to speak to it, and then Betty to move it. Betty.
You're muted, Betty.
Hang on, it's struggling. Yes, I just would like to say I would like to move this item on equalities, but I would also like to say it's an annual progress review, and I'd like to say we have a team called SEDIP, which is Strategic Equalities and Diversity Board, and we meet regularly, and I attended as the Equalities Champions. A lot of work is actually being done to improve equality and diversity in the workforce. For example, we've had targeted Have a Go events that they're really to encourage more women and those from underrepresented groups to come forward. Earlier this year, we actually won an award for our positive action work, but we need to build on that, and we need to keep the momentum going and do better, I think, in many ways. But equality and diversity, to some extent, are two parts of the same jigsaw puzzle. And if we get it all right and all together, we'll end up with a good, diverse workforce. So a lot of work has gone in. We need to do more. And then what we need to do is to get those people who are interested in joining the service to actually give them, women especially, the confidence to feel that they can do the job. So I will ask that we approve this draft equalities report and try and build maybe a little bit swifter on the work we've actually been doing. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thanks for that, Betty, and thanks for the work you do. Can I ask somebody else other than me and Colwinder to second that, please? Ted let's take Ted. So we've got Betty's moving it, Ted's seconding it. I have no other speakers. Can we have a show of hands? Okay, thank you, Ted. Thank you, Betty.
Thank you.
Okay, so our final report is the service delivery update. This is on pages 161 to 166 of your agenda pack, and it's you again, Callum.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll briefly introduce it, and if it's okay, I'll hand over to the Assistant Chief Officer, Paul Weston, to talk through the paper as he's built it, and we'll have the details answers.
Very good. It'll give you a break.
Unfortunately, I need to report to members we suffered an incident last night where one of our fire engines was attacked. A bottle was thrown at it, and the windscreen was broken. No crew members were hurt, and it was in the Braunston area of the city. We're just currently drafting an awful lot of media statements. I want to go quite loud and quite aggressive that this isn't acceptable in any way, shape or form. And we'll be looking to liaise with the police to see if we can get any kind of justice around the situation. Our fire engines all have CCTV mounted on them, so hopefully we will have some images. But I just wanted members to be aware it only happened at around about midnight, so we haven't had a chance to put a briefing out, and it seemed an opportune moment to talk to you or let you know that it's coming, but that all our crew are safe and well. Incredibly disappointing that we've got to do it, but it necessitates a response in my view. So if you're comfortable, Chair, I'll hand over to Assistant Chief Officer Paul Weston to go through service delivery.
Yep, thank you, Callum.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chair and members, for the opportunity to present the service delivery update. The report's broken down into 5 key areas with incidents of notes attached at the end. If I cover off the prevention part for a start, as members are aware through previous reports, we've had difficulty gaining access and community engagement due to the COVID-19 restrictions. However, that's forced us to operate differently and come up with innovative ideas of how we can engage with the community. Between August and October, we've successfully delivered 2,353 home fire safety checks through either telephone conversations, distant door knocking, etc. The protection side of the organisation, as members are aware, we have successfully carried out a prosecution for breaches of the fire protection order. We've also taken out a successful prosecution against a former member of staff who had retired and had engaged himself as a self-employed fire safety advisor without the formal qualifications. If I go on to the response side of the business, you will see through the report that we are attending an increased amount of requests to gain entry to premises, which are exposing our crews to an increased level of fatalities. Now we're undertaking that work as part of the Police and Crime Act 2017 to collaborate with partner agencies, and the collaboration is we are trying to gain entry because we have the mechanisms to do so on behalf of EMAS. To address some of the issues around exposure to fatalities, we have the TRIM process, which is the trauma risk incident management, and that is where people that are exposed or members of staff that are exposed to the fatality will receive some counselling, they'll be debriefed, and we will assess and monitor their mental health. If I move on to the performance area, as you will see through the report, appliance availability has increased. I will caveat that with during the first lockdown, we saw a large increase in our on-call availability, and that is due to members of staff either being made redundant, being furloughed, or working from home, which they were then able to provide an increased level of response for the fire and rescue service. You will see also through the report, we are very slightly over on our attendance at life critical incidents. We set a target of an average of 10 minutes. We're actually at 10 minutes 0.03 seconds. That in part is due to the issue of attending fires within prisons, in particular HMP Stockham, where our travel distance is greater than the 10 minutes. I will caveat it at this point in time to say that that particular type of premise is very good for fire safety measures. They have built-in misting systems, they have automatic fire alarms, and 99 times out of 100, every time we get there, the cell fire is out, the person is out of the cell and removed to the segregation unit, and we are more of an inspection only part, but it's still recorded as a P1, which is a life risk incident. So whilst we are very slightly over, I will caveat it's an area of concern, and we are addressing it through engagement with the prison authorities in that particular area. The next part of the report goes on to our COVID-19 response. That's been covered in a previous paper. I will highlight the fact that we are responding and collaborating with our partner agencies in carrying out COVID-19 compliance inspections at business premises. That's a double benefit for the fire and rescue service. Not only are we supporting the response to COVID-19, but we're also being able to get fire protection information on that type of business premise. The incidents of note are as per the report. And Chair, I'm happy to take any questions if you permit.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'll move some recommendations and we'll take some questions. Can I first of all have it put on the record that we note last night's appalling incident, and we do find it exceedingly disappointing that fire and rescue officers are attacked whilst going about their daily business. We've just heard from Ted earlier on what such great esteem they're held in by the general public, so it even makes it even more appalling and even more disappointing. So can I have that recorded so everyone can recognise it? So can I formally move that the update provided on the key service delivery matters for the period August to October 2020, particularly the increased exposure of fire crews to fatalities, either through fire or related incidents or in support of other agencies, and the support in place for crews following such incidents be noted. I'll formally move that, but can I also have added that I get as chairman the notice of fatalities, and the amount of incidents where the fire officers, fire and rescue officers are first there, it's significant. And I know from speaking to Callum, I don't want to say it in a public meeting, but we're often there, if not always first, but often first. And some of the incidents that they have to deal with and what they have to do when they get there, because fire officers aren't allowed or cannot pronounce people dead until somebody else arrives, having to attempt to resuscitate people that have been dead for a very long time is something which I don't think any of us could possibly imagine. And if you're interested in what they have to do, I won't ask Callum to walk you through it now, but if you email Callum and ask, what they have to do is pretty daunting in my view. So if I can have those comments recorded along with what I've moved, I'll ask Kawinda for your second, then we'll start off with questions. Kawinda?
Yeah, I'll second them. However, what I will say is that I'd like to apologise for the incident in Braunston on behalf of the city, but more so from Braunston being the councillor. But I hope you understand some of the challenges that we face in some of our wards in the city.
Yeah, I think some of Braunston is actually in the county, isn't it, Colwinder?
That's Braunston town.
Right.
And we have Braunston.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Right, I'm going to take people in order of calling. Ted, you were first up again. Over to you, Ted.
Thank you very much. Fortunately, because the overwhelming, and it's over 99.9% of people are hugely in support of the fire service, it's exceedingly, actually you can conversely say it's good news that we've only had one incident. It's one incident too many, but you know that person will be so vilified once prosecuted that it will serve as a reminder just how such high esteem the fire service is held. Now it's understood that following on from what you've explained, Chair, the extreme broad and gruesome job that the fire brigade has to do sometimes. However, could I politely ask that where possible, where time allows, that where there is a fatality in a certain area, that the relevant fire authority members can, if time allows and if it's convenient, are informed. The reason I say that, there was a fire in Loughborough, and I got phone calls from members of the public who knew I was on the fire authority, and I unfortunately didn't know anything about it. But that's if time allows. And the second question regards point 13 on page 163 about the fatalities. That's 21 fatalities in amongst all these things. What do we mean by 16 special services, please?
Callum?
Sorry, I was just coming off mute. So special services is a mixture of basically all the other incidents. So the fatality incidents that we're really attending at the moment, as ACO Weston mentioned, we have quite an incredible power of entry if someone is believed to be hurt. So we are quite commonly forcing entry to properties where people either haven't been seen for a number of days or weeks, or there is concern for their welfare. So we force entry on behalf of the ambulance service to go in and administer whatever they need to. Previously or historically, that was always done by the police. And as I think we all understand, the police resource requirement is significantly stretched, and it was a power that we were able to enact for them under our legislation. So that's what we do. That's pretty much where we are encountering most of the, if not all of those 16 fatalities. The special service is a term we use for every non-fire incident, basically. So it may be, and I'm not suggesting we have had this, but if someone falls in the water and we were to rescue them from the water, that would be regarded as a special service. But I'm fairly confident, and I'll be corrected by Paul if necessary. But I believe all of those 16 special services are where we have effected entry because of a concern for welfare.
Thank you. Can you answer his question about notification? I didn't quite get it all. All I ever get is just the notice of fatalities. I'm not sure if Ted was asking for more than that or not.
Certainly, where time providing with fire related, I'd be interested perhaps with a conversation where that hasn't happened in the recent past, Councillor Parson, because we've only had 3 fire fatalities this year, and I know all 3 of them have been enacted. One of them, unfortunately, the individual came out of the fire and was rescued and died subsequently about a month later. So that might be one where we haven't done it because the circumstances are very different. But it's certainly a desire from the officers. If any of them are fire related, we will look to contact any of the councillors whose wards it's happened in.
Okay, thank you. I did have you down, Sue, but I see your hand's gone down. Are you okay?
Yeah. Yes, I was going to ask whether or not the incident last night that involved damage to the vehicle took place in Braunston Town or in Braunston, but I think you'd already discussed that, or it was, and presumably we would be notified if it was a local incident, because there was another incident that I'm aware of in Braunston in the city last night, and I wondered if they were connected.
You know,
to answer that, Chair, if I may, yeah, the crew were responding to a motorbike fire in Braunston Park Court, Crescent, Leicester. It was the second one of the evening. The fire had been extinguished. They were on the process of leaving the scene, and a group of 6 individuals threw bottles at the fire engine, one of which smashed the front windscreen.
Thank you, because that is a particular case that I've been dealing with last week, so that's interesting to know. Thank you.
So I will, if you're okay, Chair, I will circulate, once we've got the press release and a few more details and images ready, I'll circulate that to relevant councillors, or indeed all the fire authority if that's requested.
Yeah, send it to all the fire authority, being as you've raised it today, Callum. Okay, so we've got a motion moved and seconded by myself and seconded by Cowinda, with some additional words which recognise the incident and recognise the work which crews do. Are we all happy with that? That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Paul. Urgent action is 16. As I mentioned, we don't have any urgent action. So all it is now is to remind you that the next meeting of the Combined Fire Authority will be held on the 10th of February 2021. It will be via Microsoft Teams. I'd like to thank Leanne McMahon for attending. I'll ask her in a minute if she wants to say anything, but before we finish, can I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year? And over to you, Leanne, in case you've got anything you want to ask us.
Thank you, Chair. Nothing of any note but to say thank you very much for your time and attention today. Very much appreciated. Appreciate the invite to be able to attend. Merry Christmas and stay safe, everybody.
Sure. And if you get anything you think about after, just ask either myself or Cowinda and we'll help you out.
That's very kind. Thank you.
With that, we're done. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Thank you.